If anything, you're just being selfish. You are bringing drama into the relationship just for your own gratification.
You think polyamory is selfish? I think monogamy is the selfish relationship structure because you want one person all to yourself, you don't want to share them with anyone else. That's why monogamous people cheat.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nas Debate. Today we are going to debate whether or not being with multiple partners is okay. Basically, monogamy versus polyamory. Monogamy is loving one partner, mono, while polyamory is having multiple partners at the same time. In recent years, the dynamic of relationship has changed and polyamory became more popular. But is it unethical? Is it bad for society? Well, we invited the experts to debate on it. On my left, we have the common monogamy man, Matthew.
Hi, I'm Matthew, a monogamous man. I've been monogamous for the last 10 years and I've had 3 serious relationships in that time.
On my right, we have the Polyamory Educator, Leanne.
Hi, I'm Leanne. I've been polyamorous for 6 years. I currently have 2 partners and I am a polyamorous content creator and educator on Instagram, TikTok and Twitter.
Before we begin with the debate, let me explain you how it works. We ask our audience, are they pro-monogamy or are they pro-polyamory? Right now, they are 50-50. At the end of the debate, we're gonna ask them again, and whoever managed to change the most minds wins. Each debater will have 30 seconds to state their arguments. Let the debate begin!
So the reason why I'm advocating for polyamory today is for 3 reasons: honesty, flexibility, and self-discovery. Honesty, because I think that if we're more honest with ourselves and with our partners about our desires, our wants and needs, that will lead us to develop deeper connections and better relationships. With flexibility, I think that with polyamory, we can create relationships that truly suit us rather than following social convention. And finally, with self-discovery, I think that by doing all of this, we learn more about ourselves, we learn more about our partners, and we engage better with our communities.
Why has monogamy been normalized by so many societies for the greater part of the last millennium? Why do I and so many other people decide to practice monogamy? I argue that polyamory actually creates more problems than it presents. It normalizes cheating, it harms children, and it creates an unstable social structure.
So Matthew, one of your points was that polyamory is just an excuse for cheating, which is an extremely common misconception among monogamous people. The truth is, you just fundamentally misunderstand what cheating is. Because cheating is breaking an agreement in the relationship, and you can make whatever agreements that you want. So in monogamy, that might be sexual or romantic activity outside the relationship. For me, it's something like not communicating about new relationships we have, or not having safe sex and without telling our partner. And so it's about breaking that agreement. That's what cheating means to me, not just whatever you're doing outside of the relationship.
Yeah, but what about if the agreement was forced? I mean, there are a lot of people who enter polyamorous relationships who were previously monogamous but just wanted an excuse to sleep around with other people. What do you say to those people who use polyamory as an excuse for cheating?
But what you're describing, Matthew, isn't polyamory. The whole point of polyamory is consent and communication and honesty and transparency. So if someone isn't doing that, someone is going to their partner and just telling them and then doing whatever they want, their partner did not truly consent to that. And also, what about the people who were coerced into monogamy? Monogamy is an institution, as a social structure. There are lots of people who would prefer to be in polyamorous relationships but feel like they can't, and so they get coerced into monogamy as well.
Right, but people get coerced into polyamory as well. I mean, a 2019 study found that more than half of people in polyamorous relationships said that the desire for a relationship like that was not mutual.
What do you mean by not mutual, though? Like, does it mean like one person likes it more than the other? Because I think with most things, you can say that one person probably desired it more than the other person. And also, polyamory is an unconventional relationship style, and I would understand if some people had reluctance to practice it. But I personally know a lot of people who were initially hesitant to try polyamory, but then they got into it, and over time, they discovered that they actually really enjoyed it, sometimes more than their partner who suggested it in the first place. So, that study that you quote, I would love to see what happened to those couples over time. Did their desires change? Are they still polyamorous? Are they still monogamous?
But several of my polyamorous friends actually just use polyamory as an excuse to sleep around with a bunch of other people. I mean, consensual or not. So then the question is, why is one partner not enough?
I don't think there's anything wrong with someone wanting to sleep around with people as long as they're doing it ethically and consensually. And also, polyamory is not just about sex. It's in the name, polyamory, many love. It's about pursuing intimacy and connection with multiple people. Obviously, there are non-monogamous relationships, open relationships where you have one primary romantic partner and then multiple sexual partners. But again, that's all done above board. It's all transparent. Everyone agrees to it. And as for one partner not being enough, I don't think that's the point. I don't see a point in restricting romantic emotion to one partner. We have a lot of love to give, and we get to decide whether we want to share that with one partner or multiple people.
But with your partners, don't they ever get jealous when you have encounters with other people? I mean, do you not care about your partner feeling jealous?
I mean, obviously people get jealous. I think jealousy is a perfectly normal human emotion. I think in monogamous relationships, the most common response to experiencing jealousy is just asking your partner to stop doing whatever it was that made you jealous. But in polyamorous relationships, there's much more of a kind of questioning of what's going on in a relationship that made you feel this way. Is your partner not meeting a need that you want to get met? Or is there something going on with you and your insecurities or past trauma that made you feel this way? I think that ultimately, I see jealousy as an opportunity to learn about yourself and learn about your relationship and not something to avoid.
But jealousy is part of our nature. I mean, evolution has programmed us to be jealous. I get jealous all the time, and I get jealous of my partner's ex-partners, let alone someone who she might be currently in a relationship with. So I don't understand. How do you do it?
I mean, that's your problem, I guess. I mean, in the polyamorous community, we have a word that is, often seen as the opposite of jealousy. It's called compersion. So, when I see with my partners with other people, I don't feel, sad or angry or scared. I feel happy. I really enjoy seeing my partners with other people. I think that they deserve the world. And I think that, it's beautiful that they can, explore different sides of themselves with other people. So, I mean, I don't think jealousy is inherent to the human condition because that's not my personal experience.
But in monogamy, you don't ever have to worry about any of that. I mean, monogamy is such a stable structure. I feel secure in my relationship. I don't ever have to worry about my partner leaving me or, disappearing or sleeping around with other people. So it's a very stable structure. I
mean, that might be the case for you, but I have seen way too many examples of monogamous people being overly possessive and jealous of their partner. There are some relationships where you're not allowed to have friends of the opposite gender because it threatens their partner or something. Or, someone will get jealous over their boyfriend liking some girl's pics on Instagram. So I love that for you that you have such a stable relationship, but I have seen way too many examples where that isn't the case. And about the stability of monogamy, have you seen the divorce rates? 50% of marriages end in divorce these days. Monogamy is not as stable as you say it is.
I get that that's a problem, but polyamory isn't the solution. The solution is marriage counseling or therapy. How would adding in a third or a fourth partner add any additional stability or increase the success of a relationship like that?
No one ever said that polyamory was the solution to a failing monogamous relationship. Yeah, I agree that you need security in a relationship in order for it to function successfully, whether you're monogamous or polyamorous. So yeah, if a relationship isn't working, absolutely go to therapy, absolutely go to counseling. Don't invite more people into that mess, whether it's, a third partner or a baby. Right? Ultimately, you need a good foundation and, trust in your partner and to be a good communicator. And that is the case no matter what relationship you're in.
So you agree with me. Polyamory isn't the solution to monogamy. I mean, monogamy already has its problems. And when you add on jealousy and insecurities and other people into the mix, if anything, you're just being selfish. You are bringing drama into the relationship just for your own gratification.
You think polyamory is selfish? I think monogamy is the selfish relationship structure because you want one person all to yourself, you don't want to share them with anyone else. That's what I hear from monogamous people when they talk about why they don't want to do polyamory. They get too jealous, they don't want to share their partner with other people. Don't you see the possessive language in that? That's why monogamous people cheat, because they want to have the freedom of multiple partners without allowing their partners the same autonomy and freedom. I think that polyamory is selfless, not selfish, because I love my partner, I want them to get everything they want to deserve, I want them to go out in the world and experience as much love and affection they possibly could. How is that selfish?
But I don't ever want to cheat. Hey Sharon. Monogamy is selfless. You are saying to your partner, I love you and you can trust me to stick with you through thick and thin, right? It's such a sacrifice, it's a long-term commitment, and that is how monogamy is so selfless.
But I don't think love should be about sacrifice. And I don't think that commitment necessarily has to mean exclusivity. Commitment for me is, looking after my partner and celebrating their wins and, supporting them when they're feeling down. And, none of that actually requires monogamy. Like, I care about my partner, but, I think that so many people rely on the structure of a relationship to feel secure rather than, how emotionally attuned they are to their partner. So many people stay in a relationship just for the sake of being in it, and they're not actually happy in it. Like, you talk about longevity as well. I don't think longevity necessarily correlates to success.
So you say you want to be there for them, but what if both of them, for example, need kidney transplants at the same time? Are you going to go kidneyless? The point is, you can't be there for both your partners equally. I can always count on my partner to be there for me, and I think it's really unfair to one of your partners, and that's not really a relationship that I want to be in.
I hope I never have to end up in a situation where both of my partners need a kidney transplant. I would really wonder what was wrong with them. But, asking someone to choose between their partners is like asking a mother to choose between her children. It's an unfair question. Obviously, you can't make that choice. And, I actually don't think that you can be there for your partner all the time. You can have ups and downs, right? Like, there's some days you're at 80%, some days you're at 20%. There's going to be a give and take. If I'm feeling quite low and my partner needs support, the beautiful thing is that they have other partners that they can rely on. They're not fully relying on me. In fact, I think, you and your partner always having to be there for each other and having to depend on each other all the time can be very isolating in the event that one of you actually can't.
Monogamy is not isolating. My partner's from the US and she's introduced me to her social circle, and because of her, I've expanded my group of friends. And I can count on them and rely on them. I don't need another partner. And to add to that point, I think polyamory creates an over-sexualized view of relationships. Because of that, relationships are going to be used as a crutch to create emotional connections, and it's far less likely that you're going to be able to create emotional connections outside that community.
I don't know what kind of image you have in your mind of what the polyamorous community is like. I think you have this image that it's like a sexual free-for-all. That isn't the case. Again, polyamory is not just about sex. Even if it was about sex, I don't understand what your issue with sex is. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to have sexual connections with people. I think the boundaries between what is platonic, sexual, romantic are actually much more blurred than we believe.
My problem with too much sex with too many people is STDs. In a monogamous relationship, I don't have to ever worry about my partner catching an STI or an STD. And you say that your limit is 2 partners. Well, mine is 1. How do you manage your time? I barely have time to spend time with my partner. I work from Monday to Friday, Saturday is my partner day, and then Sunday, sometimes I see my family. And if I added another partner to our relationship, it means that you're far less likely to have the time to engage in more meaningful things in life, like learning Chinese or playing the piano.
Yes, it is true that polyamorous people tend to have more sexual partners than monogamous people. But this doesn't mean that monogamous people don't have to worry about STIs at all. In fact, there was a study conducted in 2015 which showed that monogamous people and non-monogamous people were no more or less likely to contract an STI. There were 2 reasons for this. Firstly, polyamorous people are more likely to be honest with their partners about the number of sexual partners that they have. And the second point is that 25% of the monogamous people in that study cheated on their partner, so that's what led to there being no disparity between the 2 groups, because monogamous people cheat and polyamorous people are more sexually responsible.
But this still begs the question, where do you find the time? And then on top of this, you gotta get tested every 3 months for STIs. How do you find the time?
I don't think that this is a polyamory versus monogamy issue. I think this is a time management issue. Like, I have a Google Calendar where I have all my commitments on my schedule, and I keep myself organized. Like, I'm self-employed. One of my partners works a 9 to 5. The other one works longer shifts 3 days a week. So like, on the days where my partner is at work, then I can see my other partner like on his days off. And yeah, like I can spend weekends with them. So you just make it work. I think it's different for every person. There are people in monogamous relationships who are completely just married to their jobs and don't spend any time with their partners. So yeah, it's about organization and time management.
So you said it's about prioritizing what you want. Well, I prioritize depth, while it sounds like you prioritize breadth. I really value my partner being there for me through every important life event. Birthdays, funerals, promotions. And it sounds like in a polyamorous relationship, those life events are going to be split amongst multiple people. So how do you value those relationships as intensely as you would in a monogamous relationship?
With these important life events, you can celebrate them with multiple partners. I mean, like you don't just celebrate your birthday with one partner. Like you can bring your friends, you can bring your family. So like I can bring multiple partners. Like I can go to a wedding and instead of a +1, I can have +2. Like I don't think they're mutually exclusive things. And regarding the breadth versus depth point, I think that my relationships are deeper because I practice polyamory. Because ultimately, I think that polyamory helps us all on our self-discovery journeys in terms of learning more things about ourselves. And so, and in that process, we evolve and grow as people, and I get to see all the different versions of my partner throughout life.
So you say you want to bring 2 other people to a wedding. Well, what other things can you actually do with 2 other partners? You can't really get married to 2 other people, you can't really adopt children with 2 other people, and so the state is set up to benefit people who are in monogamous relationships, and so there are a lot of benefits to that.
But that's not a problem with relationships, that's a problem with the state. I don't think that people in couples should have more rights than single people. In fact, I think the existence of marriage means that, there are so many people who are forced into relationships they don't want to be in so they can get married and have a tax break. Women used to get married because otherwise they wouldn't be able to own property. In some countries, women still can't vote. So the fact that at the moment you can only marry one person suggests to me that the state needs to progress and get with the times.
The state only grants tax breaks to couples because it's really expensive to have children. And speaking of children, the family structure really impacts the mental health of children. Children who are brought up in non-traditional family structures are way more likely to have self-esteem issues, communication difficulties, or behavioral disorders. In fact, a key reason why humans have become increasingly socially monogamous is that children suffer under a polyamorous upbringing.
You sound like one of those homophobes who used to be against gay parents. Firstly, monogamy was created for economic reasons. We didn't used to marry for love. It was about inheritance and passing down property. And secondly, regarding polyamory being bad for children, there are so many studies that disprove that. Dr. Elizabeth Sheff dedicated most of her academic career to researching children from polyamorous families. And in her research, she demonstrated that children from polyamorous families were much more articulate and able to express their emotions and generally just more mature than their peers who grew up in monogamous families. So your point about children being damaged by polyamorous family structures is just blatantly untrue.
But another study showed that there's a vast amount of evidence that children brought up in polygamous families experience much greater rates of marital conflict and violence. I know that polygamy and polyamory are 2 slightly different things, but that shows that children who are brought up in non-traditional family structures suffer.
I mean, polygamy and polyamory are not just slightly different things, they are completely different things. There are so many examples in monogamous societies of children being raised by multiple parents. It just differs like who they are to each other, right? In Asian cultures, right? It's very normal for children to be raised by multiple generations, right? Like their parents and their grandparents and like aunts and uncles. And there are also blended families where like step-parents come together to raise multiple children. So I don't understand what the fuss about polyamorous families is when, ultimately it's not about the number of parents or who they are to each other. It's about stability and, multiple parents being there for the child to provide sources of advice and support.
But you're living in an ideal world, Leanne. I mean, society doesn't accept polyamory. What about the children of polyamorous partners? I mean, when they are much more likely to get bullied in school. What does that do to their mental health?
I mean, they said the same thing about gay parents. Just because other people are not going to be accepting at the moment doesn't mean that we can't make the change for people to be more accepting. Ultimately, we're all working towards a more equal and accepting and open-minded world, right? So your point is invalid. You can say the same about gay parents, but now acceptance of gay parents is becoming more and more normalized.
You sound like you're putting gay couples and polyamorous people in the same bucket, but being gay is not a choice. Polyamory is a lifestyle choice, and you choosing for your children to get bullied, isn't that unfair?
You're right, polyamory is not a sexuality in the same way that being gay is. I agree with you on that. But I think it's also not necessarily a choice. There are lots of polyamorous people who believe that it is a fixed personality trait. Similar to being an introvert or an extrovert, you're more predisposed to one relationship style than the other. So, I don't necessarily think that, it's as binary as being an identity or a choice. I think it's somewhere in between, actually. And even if it is a choice, I don't think that makes something more or less valid. I don't think that, someone deserves rights just because they were born that way.
Whew, that was a stressful debate. But before we announce the results and go to the voting, let's hear closing statements. Matthew, you go first.
In conclusion, polyamory is not the answer to monogamy's problems. People are inherently jealous, polyamory is impractical, and polyamory creates a lot of trouble for children.
Thank you so much. Leanne, closing statement.
Ultimately, I don't think most polyamorous people are trying to argue that everyone should be polyamorous. I think what polyamorous people are trying to advocate for is choice. Choice to be in one relationship or multiple relationships. So a vote for polyamory is a vote for choice.
Thank you so much. And now, let's get the audience to vote. Okay, we have the results. And it's not a tie. It's not a tie, we have a winner. And the winner with 60 to 40% is Leanne! Woo! Yeah! Thank you so much for watching this debate. Well, what do you think? Do you think monogamy is outdated? Do you think polyamory is for you actually? Did you change your mind after watching this debate? Let us know in the comments and see you in the next debate.